Hello everyone and welcome to another Naraka Bladepoint video. This is OSK and today we're going to be talking about the very best characters in the game today. Yes, Naraka Bladepoint has a lot of different characters with a lot of different talents, a lot of different skills, and a lot of different ultimates. So today I thought that we'd break them all down and, rank them. Maybe not best to worst, but maybe in a tier list format. Now, before we get going any further, I do have to stress, you read the title of the video, this is based on the solo mode only. This is not duos, it's not trios. If you're looking for that kind of ranking, you will not find it here. This is the solo mode. And by the way, when I say solo, I don't mean 1v1s either. I mean the solo battle royale mode. So if you're looking for something different, now is your chance to click off because we will be proceeding with the solo mode tier list. Listen, if I don't spell it out like that, someone's going to comment with, what about trios? And we're not doing that today. All right, is everyone okay with that? Are we good? Okay, fine. Great. And just keep in mind, this is my own personal opinion based on what I've seen in my own solo games, what I've seen from my friends who are much more highly ranked, including the top 100, top 50, top 25. I have a lot of friends in high places, so to speak. And also what I was able to gather from the tournaments that just happened over the past weekend. And I've also looked at some past ones too, but especially the one from the last weekend. It's more up to date with all the characters' different kits. So this is about as accurate of an opinion as I could possibly format. If you disagree with it, feel free to tell me why I'm wrong in the comments. But without further ado, wasted enough time. If you like the video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe, do all that sort of stuff. Because right now we're getting into the solo character tier list for Naraka Bladepoint. Hello everyone, welcome to the character tier list. In this tier list, I'll be going over the strengths and weaknesses of each character, why some rank above others, and basically just, going over their general viability. Keep in mind that this is a solo only ranking, so if you're playing trios or duos, this does not apply to you for the most part. It's only solos because that is what I play. We'll get some trios and some duos rankings later, but for right now, this is only solos. Also, you may have noticed I don't have my glasses. Well, I'm putting them on right now because, well, why do I wear glasses? Is it because I want to look wise? Is it because I want to appear more learned than I am? No, it's because I can't freaking see the screen. And to put it in context, this is how blind I am. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this tier list. Well, first things first, I just want to thank the brave souls who made these templates because I can attest personally from some of the past tier lists that I've made that making the tier list itself is one of the most painstakingly boring things to do, like making the templates, because you have to go in, screen grab all the different images, unless a dev gives them to you, which no one did for me. But in any case, it is a pain in the butt to crop out each of these pictures. So thank you, the brave soul, whoever did this. It seems like it was the lazy sloth. You can't see it, but if I scroll down there, you'll be able to see it here. Make sure you tell him thank you. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the ranking of the solo character tier list. So first things first, we have Justina Goo. And Justina Goo does a really good job with her ultimate of being able to give you options. And what I mean by that is it's got 3 bursts of movement if you use the first version, which is the version you should be using, which is V1 as we call it. V for ultimate is the key that you press on PC. Her V1, it lets you have 3 dashes. If you hit more than one character in one dash, it refunds the dash. So you could theoretically have infinite dashes as long as the timer's up. But in any case, you freeze one person, the first one you hit, and that lasts for enough to land a focus attack if you space it out correctly. And there's different tech that goes with it. What she does really well is give you options to be able to engage and disengage fights. If you find yourself in a bad spot, you activate your ultimate and you dash out of there. But also her F1 skill does a really good job of giving you a bit of a safety net with her armor regen. Usually you'll go into a fight, and if you get low enough, if they chip away armor, there's not a real clear way to get out. You can just simply press your F1 skill, and that will give you a way to recover some of that armor you lost from getting slapped around, that sort of thing. Her F2 as well is very useful. I see this a lot on the Chinese server. It's basically a version of her F that doesn't recover armor, but you can use it to interrupt combos while you're under attack. So both of those options are really good. Personally, I think her ultimate is one of the things that really puts her above the rest because of the movement option. Of course, the damage is nice, but whenever it comes to Naraka, movement is king, and that's why I have her solidly in S tier. I think she's a mainstay. As long as she doesn't get nerfed too badly in the ultimate department, they can do whatever they want to her F. Honestly, if they nerf F1 or F2 like in a really bad way, I could see her moving down to A, but in her current state, I think she's a solid S tier. Now, Kurumi is basically the squad healer. I'm going to put her in D because basically you have an umbrella heal, an umbrella teleport that everybody knows where you're going to go because there's an umbrella on the field, and everyone knows that you're either going to return to it or you're just going to take the heal off of it. It's a mind game, but it's not a big enough one to really make up for whatever she lacks. She also has options with her ultimate if you want to go for healing or shielding or that sort of thing. You kind of have to stay in her healing field to be able to make this work. And for the most part, a lot of the better players have gotten used to either knocking her out of the field or bursting her enough to where the heal doesn't matter as much. So unfortunately, she doesn't really have as good of movement options as anyone above her. And her ultimate really is just a game of, hitting her out of her field. And that's pretty easy to do, especially with all the rest of these characters on here. So unfortunately, she will go in D tier. I've never really liked her in solo mode, and I mean, there's a reason for that. Now, Matari, I want to place her top of A, but I'm leaning bottom of S because the reason for this is because her most recent change, which came on Xbox release, her backstab ability off of her ultimate is really, really strong. Pair that with the fact that her V3 allows you to get heals off of those backstabs. It's really, really useful, especially in a solo situation. Also for a squad situation as well, but we're talking about solos today. Really, it allows her Silent Flutter, the double charge, to be able to activate a lot more quickly. And each of those charges, even though there's two and like they're not as impactful in terms of distance as her other forms of her F, the backstab itself, it's really all in her ultimate. The ability to backstab and follow up combos like that, you can either do that or just use your F to teleport away. It's really, really useful. The chase down potential of Matari is oftentimes it's so impactful to my decisions whenever I'm in my solo games that a lot of times I'm just looking to bait out the ult, get the heck away from the Matari, and if I can, and then come back whenever her ult's down. That's how strong it is. It goes through blue focus. It's a real big annoyance, and her ultimate makes it so that her F recharges at an insane rate. So I'm thinking low S right here. We'll see where she ends up at the end of the tier list, but that's where I'm going to place her for now. Now, Takeda, solid A. The only reason that he's limited is because of his lack of movement options, with the exception of F2, but normally people run F1, which is the 10-second you can't focus attack me buff that he has that allows him to just, twist your arm and let go of your weapon type thing. So I think F1 is probably the better of the two F skills. His V1 as well. A lot of people go for the teleport option, but I'm telling you, you can get some infinite juggles with the V1. And in fact, most of the top players that I see using Takeda in solos are using that V1, which basically allows you to airborne juggle people until they die. It's a lot like Tarkiji in that aspect, except this one it's a little bit different, and it's not technically infinite since you only have those 3 charges with the ultimate. But if you can get it off, I mean, Takeda is probably the best 1v1 character that we have in the game right now. The only problem is that solos is not a 1v1 mode. It's very much based on can you engage and can you disengage very quickly and very reliably. Unfortunately, Takeda does not have that ability to do. He's very good if you don't need to flee a fight or if you don't need to quickly engage a fight. He's really good if it's like, if it's the last 2 people in the circle, Takeda probably would win that fight, but that's usually not how solos go. In any case, we're going to put him in A for right now. It's really his lack of movement options that leave him in the dust, so we're going to leave him at A for right now. Tarkiji is in a similar boat, except he doesn't really have movement problems with his ultimate. The problem is that you have to use his ultimate, and most of the time, his ultimate doesn't really provide him, too safe of an escape. With Matari, you can turn invisible, and they can't target you with grapples. With Justina Goo, you dash 3 times and you're pretty much out of range at that point. Tarka, he kind of has to run away. Most of the time, players can just grapple chain you and follow you wherever you go. The main benefit with Tarkiji is F skill is pretty good if you have your ultimate up. Otherwise, it's really dependent on who you're facing. Smart people will not attack you while your F is up unless you can perfectly predict something. And for his ultimate, that's his real strength, because with katanas, he has infinites. He really has infinite with a lot of different weapons, but you kind of have to get to that point. If your opponent knows how to play around the infinite, then he's not as valuable as someone who can freely dash out of an encounter. So that's why I'm putting him at A. Also, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I'm basing this tier list based on my own experience in solos and off of tournament placements that we just had this past week. Don't really see a whole lot of Tarkas making it up to the top. I know it's based a lot on individual player skill, but I don't really see him picked a lot, and whenever I do, he's not exactly stomping the lobby or anything like that. So I think he's a really good character, and you can do a lot of great things with him. I just don't think that he's, top of the list whenever you're going into your solo games. Still very fun to play, don't get me wrong. It's just not the very top, which is why I put him at A along with Takeda. Let's get into Mulch. Mulch is very useful in squad games, but we're talking about solos. Now, the main thing that he has going for him in solos is that he has almost a defensive disengage by way of his Tornado ultimate. It's a good way to sort of slow the players around you and maneuver in a way where they will be slowed and have a bad time if they try to go through your tornado. It gives you an opportunity to heal up and recover and that sort of thing. It's not the biggest effect in the world or anything like that, but it is useful in certain situations. He does have a touch of death with one of his F skills, where you can uppercut a person, do a little combo, hit them with the F skill, and then uppercut chain them again. Very similar to how Tarkiji's Katana Infinite goes, but you only get one charge of it, only one chance of it, and overall it's just not as reliable as any of the other options here. So that's why he goes in B. I don't think he's as good as Takeda or Tarkiji, but he's a solid character. Not outstanding in any way, but he covers his bases okay. Now Tianhai, the first of our Transformers here, his ultimate allows him to transform into a giant Vajra that is really easy to run away from. I'm not going to say that if you're a good player, it's impossible to get caught by his range grab. There's a lot of good Tianhai players that can predict where you're going to move in time to make that grab. Once he grabs you the first time, it's really hard to get away from him and you might die, but because of the amount of obstacles generally in the field that prevent him from doing this, and a lot of the advanced movement that a lot of these players have caught up with, Tianhai's ultimate, it's not as good as it could be, especially not in squads when you have more targets and teammates to distract them. He's just not as good as solos for that reason. Also, if you go up against a really good solo player, there's a chance that they'll just hit your weak spots and then you'll die. As far as his bell goes, it is a pretty good combo stopper. It gives you an opportunity to restart the fight and do it on your terms since they will be in hit stun, but it's a lot like Tarka's F, where if players know how to play around it, it's not the most impactful thing in the world, and sometimes it just ends up being a free hit on your bell and then they're back to comboing you sometimes. So overall, his ultimate is a lot less reliable than Tarka's, and also his F skill is very similar. Really, it's the Vajra form. Just whenever you're in higher elos, whenever you're against more skilled players, it really drops off really hard, and that's why he's in C. Still above Kurumi, but he's in C. Valda, it's a lot like Mulch. If you play with your bubbles well, in fact, I'm going to put her slightly above Mulch. If you play around your bubbles really well, you can do a lot of great things with Valda. Her ultimate leaves a lot to be desired. It's basically some free damage. Now, there are a few cute combos you can do with her F1 skill, and I believe her V2, where they get caught in a whirlpool and you're not above the ground with your water spear. There are a few cute little combos you can do with her F1 and with her V2. But overall, that's more, it's kind of a meme, honestly. Like, you get memed on if that happens to you. It's not something that you would pick if you're trying to win. That's what you pick when you're trying to have fun, in my opinion. That would happen a lot whenever she first came out. People were experimenting with it, but I don't hardly see it at all anymore. If you miss your F1, you're basically a useless Valda, and if you have F3, which is in my opinion the superior option to get out of combos, it's a lot less on the offensive side than what I remember whenever I first picked up Valda. And overall, it's about the same impact as the Mulch in your solo matches. She's not really as reliable as any of the other options here. She's also not very mobile, which is a big minus against her. I think she still does better than Tianhai here, which is why she's in B, and I guess slightly better than Mulch. I definitely see her picked more at the very least. But overall, I think that she's a very solid character, but not outstanding in any way. So that's why she's going to be in B tier on my list here. Viper, again, same situation. In fact, no, I think Viper's actually pretty good right here, just below Mulch. They might actually be on the same level. I find that her ultimate doesn't really have the sting that it used to. Like, a lot of players are really good at moving away from Viper in a very effective way. They're really good about escaping her range whenever her ultimate pops, even with V3. So it's not like, it's not like she's useless or anything like that. In fact, she still has some amazing combos with her F skill that you can put to really good use. The only problem is that she doesn't really have very reliable mobility. And overall, I find a lot more success from these top players with the options above her. So she's a very solid character, like the rest in B tier. But again, like in B tier, not really outstanding, not really crippling in other aspects. So I think she's very middle of the road. I think this is pretty accurate to where she goes. Now, Wu Chen is an interesting one. I wanted to put him in S because that's honestly where I think that's where I first thought he belonged. Let's put it that way. But after reviewing it, I think that he's just a step below the rest. I think that he is top of A for sure. In fact, if there was an A+ tier right here, that's where I would put him. But the reason why I'm putting him in A is because overall, I think he provides a lot of good survivability, especially with his F skill, able to recover some of that armor that he might be missing from some of his fights. But also, one of the versions of his ultimate, I forget which of them, allows him a short teleport swap with his opponent, which is a great way to start a combo with some kind of advantage. So I do believe that that's a plus in his favor. Really, I think it's the survivability, the overall survivability that puts him above everyone else in A tier. I think that his ability to regain shields and also his ability to kind of cut combos short in an offensive way, or it's offensive and defensive. I think that combination does really well for him. In a 1v1 scenario, I would still probably pick Takeda, but his sheer survivability in a mode where third parties can happen a lot, I think puts him above Takeda and Tarkiji in that, for that matter. And I think, honestly, the way that the people above him, the way that the characters above him are performing, I'll push him down a peg just a little bit. I think Matari's buff to her ultimate with the backstab, it was the ultimate straw that broke the camel's back. Again, if I had an A+ tier, that's probably where I would put him. Yodohime, my former one trick, a character that I'm very familiar with, has really brought herself to the forefront in the current patch. I think that her F3 skill, which is the one with the slow moving blade that allows you a free recovery, is really powerful. It basically allows you to combo break anything in the game pretty much. It's very, very useful. And I think overall, if you have the heals in your inventory, it's a lot better of a survivability tool than even Justina's or Wu Chen's kit, either of their skills. And that is a really big plus for her. Also, if it's a close range battle, you can pop your F3 and use it to, bait moves and interrupt your opponent's attacks. It's very useful in that regard, in addition to the recovery side of it. So, in my opinion, her F skill might be one of the best in the entire game. Second only to probably Matari's teleport, just for the simple fact that if you throw your F skill in the right way, you can get like free heals off for an extended period of time, probably much more versatile than you can get with Justina's or Wu Chen's. Now, her ultimate is really, really good. Essentially, before, her ultimate was not able to be timed in the way that it is. It would be 3 set slashes that everyone would dodge behind you back in the day whenever I first played her. Now they made her to where you can sort of bait dodges and time whenever you throw your slash of your ultimate, and also it's not very much, but each hit of the blade does heal you a slight amount, so it's okay for survivability. Not the best, but it's okay. And essentially this makes her into a damage machine. Not only that, but her ultimate also has that little bit of mobility, can put your opponents into hit stun, especially whenever you hit the first hit of her ultimate. It can also be canceled early to save you a little bit of that percentage, which is really, really good. Overall, I think that she has one of the best bits of damage in the game, and also one of the best F skills in the game, allowing her to recover at a much better rate than a lot of the people below her, especially, like, again, even in comparison to Justina and Wu Chen, it's still a better skill in terms of the ability to recover and play off of. Last but not least, we have our second Transformer. He is unfortunately going to go with Tianhai in C tier. In fact, I would actually put him above Tianhai in C tier. For similar reasons. He does a lot better job in the mobility department with his ultimate. He can chase down people a lot better. The only problem is that it's not good enough to really chase down anybody if they can even get a little bit of space in between you and them. So it's really just, it can be useful in the right scenario. It's just not often enough to where I would put him above C tier, and definitely not massively above Tianhai. Now, he does have a nice F skill that does allow you to combo into certain things, and you can use while under attack. So that's a good way to get a reversal going, but again, it's not as reliable as any of the other characters on this tier list. So that is why I'm putting him in C. In solos, at least. This list could be wildly different if we were doing squads. But I think that this is going to do it for our character tier list. You have Yodo, Justina Goo, and Matari in S tier, pretty much in that order. You have Wu Chen, Takeda, and Tarkiji pretty much in that order. Valda just ahead of Mulch and Viper. Yue Shan a little bit better than Tianhai, and poor Kurumi. She never gets any love from me, and she's not going to start getting love from me now. She's going to be in D tier. So there's your character solo tier list. And that is going to do it for the solo character tier list for Naraka Bladepoint. Thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end up to this point, and thank you so much for your continued support via liking and subscribing to the channel. It's truly a blessing that I get to do this at all. I'm so glad I came back, and all the warm welcomes that I've had along the way. Right now our channel is almost to 7,000 subscribers, and that's something that I honestly just never thought that I'd hit in a million years, and here we are. So thank you guys again so much for your continued support. And also feel free to post your disagreements in the comments section down below. Of course, every tier list is going to be highly opinionated, and I'd like to know yours if it differs from mine. So please let me know down in the comments below what you think. Other than that, guys, if you liked the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Be sure to check out the socials down below. I have a Discord where you can coordinate 1v1s. I have a Twitter where I like to spew thoughts and opinions. So be sure to check those out. If you feel so inclined, you can also hit the join button down next to the subscribe button if you'd like to become a channel member. And thank you all to our existing channel members. You guys are the best. That's going to do it for me, guys. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of the day. I've been OSK, and I will see you in the next video.